special house sitting edition of Prelude to Ulysses. I had a kombucha. It's right there. Wow. What a special day. So, we are reading Ancient Evenings by Mormon Nailer. Hold on. I need to walk and get that drink behind me. Last time, the dinner went back down. They stopped eating dinner. I noticed. Hi, baby. And, something was going on with kombucha or whatever. Oh, no! Why do these always explode? Okay. Well, I'm gonna get to reading, because that's what we're all really here for. And by all of us, I mean me and this dog. You want to see her? Yeah, a lump. A lump. Oh no! Oh, baby, I'm sorry. Well, there's confirmed dog abuse. Right there for you. All right, let's get to reading. So there was a bunch of fireflies that were chilling out. They had captured a billion fireflies, and they just sat, and the room was lit by fireflies. I don't know what that painting is. By the light of these fireflies, said my mother, what is your request? But I have none. In our family, but I have none, said Tanem Otep. In our family, replied my mother, we look to return a delight for a delight. What would you desire of us? It is yours. I could not bear the boldness in her eye as she looked at him. That's a good one. I can think of many pleasures, said Tanem Otep, but he laughed as if to turn her away. Let me content myself with expressing one desire. I would say I have contemplated it for years. As if on reflection, this was certainly true, he nodded and said, the light of these mites, you know what? We're going to do this a little differently. Always sitting. We're going to read like this. Hi, Lotus. As if on reflection, this was certainly true. He nodded and said, the light of these mites makes me think of the campfires of ancient armies. There was a quick exclamation from my father at the charm of this thought. Tanem Otep nodded again. Yes, he went on. I would ask of the general, your own grandfather Menenhedet, who has much impressed me with his thoughts on time, that he would tell us a story of the Battle of Kadesh. I do not know, said Menenhedet slowly, when last I have spoken of that day. I can only inform you, said Tanem Otep, that I see this battle often. The heroism of my ancestor, Ramses II, appears in my dreams. So, I say, should you wish to return a delight for a delight? Yes. Tell me of the Battle of Kadesh. My great-grandfather took a pause and bowed. As Hathfertiti says, it is the custom of our family. As Hathfertiti says, it is the custom of our family. He looked no happier, however, than a thundercloud. When he did not say another word, my mother's voice came forth. Speak of the battle, she said, and there was an annoyance in her tone, as if Menenhedet would spoil much if he did not take care. Then we were all silent before the current of ill will in my great-grandfather. His face had the unspoken clamor of the sky before a storm, and I could feel the force of this bad feeling pass directly into my mother. Ugly as I knew his thoughts to be, would be, I was not prepared for such bitterness. The degenerate who sups on batshit has been invited to spill a few secrets, were the unspoken words that went from my great-grandfather to my mother. Know that I take pleasure in seeing you in my house, said Tanem-Otep into the silence. Menenhetet bowed again. I can speak, he said, in 4 voices. I can address you as the young peasant who became a charioteer and rose to be the general of all the armies commanding the divisions of Amun, Ra, Ta, and Set during the reign of Ramses II. I can inform you how in my second life I was the youngest high priest of Thebes during the old age of the same Ramses II. Equally, I can speak of the third Menenhetet, who became the wealthiest of the wealthy, born in the reign of Merneptah, and lived through Siptah, Seti II, and other such pharaohs as Setnakht. Now, if you desire, I can speak as I am here, your Menenhetet, a nobleman, a general, and later a doctor of renown. I can tell, should you wish to hear, of the plot against your father, or of the brief and miserable thrones of Ramses IV. What's up, girl? Brief and miserable thrones of Ramses IV, Ramses V, Ramses VI, Ramses VII, and Ramses VIII, who have all been lost to us in 25 years. Even as your majesty may reign longer than all of them together. I had often been told that the greatest mark of respect a man could give himself was to speak in a full voice on the worth of his rank and achievements. But my great-grandfather's speech was so short, it seemed rude. And then he startled us even more by his next words. They departed from every custom on how to address the pharaoh. He now said, "Twice, divine house, you speak of being happy to see me. This is, however, night of the pig. So I will dare to say that until tonight you have not invited me to your court in the 7 years of your reign. Now you inform me that your finest pleasure would be to hear an account of your ancestor, Ramses II, at the Battle of Kadesh. My tongue is sour in the teeth. I waited for 7 years with more in my heart than any man. In your realm. My ruler never called on me." Hathfertiti made a choking sound. I'm doing all my laundry. Hold up, I gotta swap some stuff out. I hope you guys aren't confused. I don't have the whiteboard behind me. Hathfertiti made a choked sound. So Menenhetet just said, "Listen, I'm 1 billion people. You didn't invite any of us. I've lived 4 lives. And you ask me to explain a battle I did? It's whack, bro." That's what he says. A clear tone came, however, into our pharaoh's voice. As if at last he had come before him. A clear tone came, however, into our pharaoh's voice. As if at last he had before him a man who spoke his thoughts. "Say more," he commanded. I'm just going to make sure you get a good picture of my dog's butt. I'm not at home. I'm at somebody else's home. You can't see my dog's butt, though. Sorry. Fast forward through this if you don't want to watch this. If you don't want to watch my dog's butt, then you're an idiot. It's the butt. This is my dog's butt. It's a little leg here. "Good and great God, you will abhor what I say. I wish to hear it. Of those in your court who laugh at me, you are the first. I am not. Not tonight. No, it is true, I do not laugh at you tonight. I have laughed at you on other evenings. The echoes, said Menenhetit, of such good humor have come back to me. Ta-Nem-Otep nodded. I know no one in my court, he said, who does not in some manner respect you. They certainly fear you. Nonetheless, you are the source of much derision. Do you have no idea why this is so? I would like to hear your voice give me the reason. The secret habits of our esteemed Menenhetit have been described as disagreeable. They are revolting, my great-grandfather replied. I am known as the degenerate who sups on bat shit. But you can't see. You can see whatever you should see. There's your furry dog. Furry lady. They are revolting. I'm known as the degenerate who sups on bat shit. There, said my mother. He has spoken it aloud. Bats, said Menenhetit, are filthy creatures, hysterical as monkeys, restless as vermin. Who can disagree, said our pharaoh. It may be easier to speak of you with derision than comprehend your habit. It may be easier to speak of you with derision than comprehend your habit. They looked at one another in the silence of men who have been saying too much. Do you do this, asked the pharaoh, in the practice of magic? Menenhetit nodded. I wish to use what was learned in other lives. And did you succeed? There was a time when I could not give up the pursuit of curious questions, so I refused to draw back from the voice that told of revelations to be found in the unspeakable odium of bats. You went forward. For a few weeks, many years ago, I pursued the question. Yes, I supped once, then twice on that loathsome paste. It offends me now to speak of it, but I found it necessary then, and I was given the answer I was looking for. It was smaller than I hoped, and that should have been the end of it. But the trusted servant who aided me in the preparation of the ceremony saw fit to tell one friend, no man can be trusted altogether. By the next night, all of Memphi was agog. I do not think there was a noble lad who did not hear of it. I, who wished to use what I had learned, to what purpose? To enrich, said Menenhetit, the marrow of our failing lands. When our pharaoh looked at him in some surprise, my great-grandfather held up his hand as if he were a moment our monarch. I do not speak, he said, of prayers that ask the river to rise to a good height. That is for priests. I speak of matters I do not wish to explain. It would take knowledge of my 4 lives to begin to comprehend certain ceremonies. Here, at the look of displeasure on Ta-Nem-Otep's mouth, as cruel in its curve as the edge of a sword, so that I realized at once and forever how the desire to torture others came quickest to our pharaoh when his curiosity was aroused, then balked. My great-grandfather shifted in the confidence of his manner long enough to say, a man who would deal in strange ceremonies and employ words of power finds that he must address himself to one God more than others. To that God is sent not only the large part of his rituals, but his thoughts. So I sought to be the agent of Osiris, since he has spoken to me in the land of the dead. Only he, I believed, could enrich the marrow of our failing lands. Now no one was able to say a word, and the dignity of my great-grandfather was like the composure of a statue. But who but Ta-Nem-Otep could enter such a silence? I, he said, am the pharaoh who reminds you most of Osiris? Yes, said my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather replied. I would say it is so. He was watching the light of our pharaoh's eyes, for even in the soft glow of the fireflies, a light was there to see. That is interesting. Please go on. I would like to hear of the injuries done to you by my court. I do not wish to complain in your presence, but I will say that the little treachery of my servant went far. The desired effect of the ceremonies I undertook was undone by the derision of your nobles. To my intolerable shame, I knew much but could do little. A magician, Tanem-Hotep, ought to be able to overcome much ridicule. The gods listen to mean thoughts. They are obliged to. None of us is without magic when we speak to the gods in a dream. Yet no more than one faithless servant, you say, is the reason for these terrible servants. I would not make that claim, said Menenhedet. I have done many things of which pious people, and those who are less than pious, would not approve. But in the public mind, 2 foul suppers equal all the rest. It is a great pity. 2 foul suppers equal all the rest. It is a great pity. There is so much I would teach. Yes, I believe that. You may have been slandered, although I wonder, is it, asked Tanem-Hotep, no more than these stories about the bats that stick to you? Or is it, and I will be as frank as the license of this night, is it not the subject of excrement itself that captures your thoughts? I have heard it said that as a doctor, your cures were extreme. I have led, said Menenhedet, by my own understanding of such matters, an upright life. I have no fear of any subject, not when I can speak to a pharaoh as wise in his understanding as yourself. No, he said, no, I feel no shame in telling of these mysteries. It is others who cannot bear to listen. I know I cannot, Nefertiti told him. The evening will be marred, she said. She said it in so strong a voice that my great-grandfather looked at her with all the force of his eyes. And the strength of his will went back and forth with hers until she could stare at my great-grandfather no longer. It was his hour. If you would speak, said Tanem-Hotep. I will, said Menenhedet, and inclined his head to Nefertiti. We do not know, he said, how such thoughts came to Egypt, but for a long while we have concocted our medicines of monkey's dung, the pellets of snakes, goat balls, the manures of horses, cow flop, bird droppings, even the matter of our own honeypots. He paused. There came a time when I was obliged to ponder the qualities of the food we eat. Not only do we take our strength from it, but what we cannot use, or what we do not wish to use, is cast out. Excrement is full of all that is too despicable for us, but it also may contain all that we cannot afford to take into ourselves, all that is too rich, too courageous, or too proud of our bearing. If this is the night of the pig, then I say to you that more honesty, generosity, and loyalty to your service is going to be found in the turds of your nobles, grand ladies, and your high priest than comes from the words in their mouths. For whichever food they nourish, hypocrisy is quickly absorbed by For whatever food will nourish hypocrisy is quickly absorbed by your loyal friends. But every virtue you might wish to guard but every virtue you might wish them to guard for you is passed through. Well said, said Tanem-Hotep. None of this is wholly strange to my ear. Indeed. His voice was so thin that he must have shared some of my great-grandfather's bitterness. There, in the lovely light of the fireflies, he argued, however, with the question. Can you, he asked, ignore the wisdom of the common people? They certainly regard clean linen as a sign of rank. Whoever is immaculate can take a stick to a fellow who is filthy. We even speak of a man we do not respect as equal to dung. Yet your logic intrigues me all the same. I cannot dispute it instantly. It is so curious, if our excrement carries away not only the worst of us, but also the best, how could you find any virtue in the bowels of a man of noble character? By your argument, the meanest poisons ought to come out of him first. In that case, is the reverse not also true? Doesn't the poor man offer gold by way of his rear end? Why has the common wisdom of Egypt not brought everyone rushing to the meanest latrines of the foulest beggars? Think that wealth, bravery, and generosity has to be found in the evacuations of such wretches. Now Hathfertiti roared with laughter. My great-grandfather was, however, undisturbed. Yes, he said, like the Lady Hathfertiti, we laugh at shit. But then we always laugh when a truth is suddenly disclosed, and as quickly concealed. The gods have tickled us with the truth, so we laugh. You do not answer the question, my great-grandfather, I burst out suddenly. Are you interested? Asked the pharaoh. I nodded profoundly. The room rang out with laughter, and I wondered of which truth I had just given them a glimpse. Yes, said Ta-Nemhotep, when everyone was silent again, I too want an answer. I would agree, replied Menenhetet, that a noble man would reject every foul temptation in his food. So indeed his leavings can offer nothing but mean poisons. And that would always be true if it were not that some noble men live with a terrible shame. When offered the opportunity to take a great chance, they do not dare. After all, one cannot welcome every trial presented by life, or the bravest of us would soon be dead. Yet, on the consequence, we must recognize that each time a difficult choice is avoided, the best part of a noble man chooses to depart by way of his buttocks. I don't get this at all. Ta-Nemhotep looked again at my great-grandfather. I still do not understand, he said in a voice that mocked the subject as much as it betrayed his interest. Why the turds of riffraff are not coveted then by my counselors? How could anything, according to you, be more invigorating for such people than a bath in the worst slops? Your counselors know better. The poor and wretched have the power to put a curse on their excrement. Otherwise, not even shit would belong to them. I am most impressed, said Ta-Nemhotep, by this last remark. It was so well said, my lord, as said Hathfertiti. Her voice had turned coarse, and I wondered whether it was the conversation, the wine, the beer, the pig, or all of it. She was certainly less respectful to my great-grandfather, and wanton when she looked at the pharaoh. Several times I tried to enter her head, but could see little more than an uproar of naked bodies, as bawdy as wrestlers in a pit. Then I recognized the face of Rava in the swarm, and Ta-Nemhotep, and my father, and great-grandfather were also there, my mother among them, naked, with her mouth open. Why is poop good? I don't get it. Excrement. Okay, so that was a chapter. I'm reading this part again. Excrement is full of all that is too despicable for us, but it also contains what we cannot afford to take into ourselves. What's too rich or too courageous? I don't know. Shit's good is what Menenhetet, the incestuous great-grandfather of immortal Egypt, has to say. I mean, sure, I like it. It's still a good chapter. Where's my little... There it is. What do you guys think? What's up? What's going on? Oh my god. Chapter 13's next. Let's see how long that one is. It's a little shorty. Cool.